Welcome back, everybody. I'm sure you've heard about the controversy in which, the a New York Times article talked about Trump declining, or rather, the White House declining like an extra 100 million doses from Pfizer. Pfizer, the same company that is part of the $21 billion opioid settlement suit. Pfizer, Mylan, Johnson and Johnson. Also, this was back during the summer when they declined. This was before Pfizer had proven its efficacy for the vaccine and before they had received emergency use approval from the FDA. So you wanted them to accept doses from a company that's currently in litigation for drugging up the nation, no rhyme intended, and then you wanted them to accept it before it had even gotten approval? No. We're going to say no twice, actually. And what's interesting is I work a job. And so as much as I'd like to be plugged in at all times, I miss this. And it wasn't until I came home recently, about 45 minutes ago, that I had seen I'd seen ABC News covering it, ABC Nightly News. I think it's David Muir, his name. And ABC Nightly News was covering it. And yes, David Muir. And I always want to make sure I have the facts correct with you guys. So if you want to see me do my work, I really appreciate that. I just pull it up. So it's cool. But anyway, and in it, the segment it glosses over FDA approval not being had. This happened during the summer. And it also glosses over the fact that apparently they had purchased more than 1 billion doses here. I'm going to read this article. To compensate, right, for more than enough Americans that may or may not need it. So let me read this. Trump officials deny, and here's the thing for me. It is one of the reasons why I began, to do these segments, make these videos, and hopefully to move on forward to a podcast, is because I would like there to be at least one corner of one smidgen, of one iota, of one, minuscule atom of the internet in which I can go and say things and point out, hey, I don't feel like this is being covered fairly. I feel like this is being covered biasly. This is why, and not be attacked, and not be slandered, right? Character assassinated. It's like you're not even addressing what I'm saying to you. And so, this is a prime example. They skew the narrative, gloss over the key detail or details that would turn the narrative on its head, and then keep on pushing, manufacturing consent and making details irrelevant as usual. So, that being said, Trump officials deny turning down additional doses of Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine. Now, I don't know why they would deny it. I mean, it happened, and if I feel like it happened for a legitimate reason. The Trump administration officials on Monday denied a report that the federal government turned down an offer from Pfizer earlier this year to purchase additional doses of its COVID-19 vaccine. The administration's Operation Warp Speed signed a nearly $2 billion contract with Pfizer and its partner BioNTech, terrible name, in July for the rights to 100 million doses. I remember when BioNTech was a sloppy security being traded. No one had any faith in it. Under the agreement, and that was just this summer. Under the agreement, the government will pay the companies $1.95 billion upon the receipt of the first 100 million doses following authorization by the FDA. The contract gave the administration the ability to acquire up to an additional 500 million doses. According to the New York Times article, the administration declined this summer when offered the opportunity to purchase additional doses. As a result, Pfizer may not be able to provide those doses of vaccine to the U.S. until June because of its commitments to other countries. But an administration official said nobody turned down additional Pfizer doses. I feel like they should just cop up to it and explain that's because they weren't even approved yet. The official said the U.S. has contracts with 5 other companies, including Moderna and AstraZeneca, for a combined guarantee of 3 billion doses as well as the option for more. Anyone who wanted to sell a guarantee without an EUA, emergency use authorization, approval, hundreds of millions of doses back in friggin' July and August was not going to get the government's money. We didn't even have results from the companies that are now being contracted, Moderna and AstraZeneca, for example, they're the main ones. We didn't even have results back then from those companies, let alone from Pfizer. Pfizer and BioNTech developed their vaccine without the aid of federal funding, unlike other companies such as Moderna. Good for them. Although with the amount of opioids with the behemoth company that Pfizer is, of course they can pay for it without federal money. The U.S. is paying for distribution only, so the price could be higher than what other countries are paying. We have continued to negotiate with all of the vaccine manufacturers, particularly the ones who now have good data, those who are in the window for an EUA authorization. We're not going to talk about those because those negotiations are underway. In a statement, Pfizer said any additional doses beyond the 100 million are subject to a separate and mutually acceptable agreement. The company is not able to comment on any confidential discussions that may be taking place within the U.S. government. Pfizer's vaccine could get FDA authorization as soon as this week. It still doesn't even have authorization. And you expected the what? That's see, this is what I'm talking about manufacturing consent and constructing a narrative and feeding it. Even I'm subject to it. I'm a person. I'm a human. I presumed that since they were bringing this up now, that Pfizer had already received approval. Let me read this again. Pfizer's vaccine could get FDA authorization as soon as this week. They don't even have approval, and yet here we are supposed to be in like uproarious anger, right? We're supposed to be livid at the Trump administration for doing this, yet Pfizer's vaccine hasn't even received FDA approval. So you wanted them to accept an unapproved, unauthorized vaccine. Good job. But the administration anticipates only 6.4 million doses will be available before the end of the year, and they couldn't even meet the numbers, which is enough for 3.2 million people because you have to get 2 doses. Federal health officials say they expect to have enough doses from Pfizer and Moderna to vaccinate a total of 20 million people by the end of the year, a fraction of the country's 330 million people. So I wanted to bring up a contrasting article just to kind of paint the picture of the narrative that's being constructed here, right? We read that Pfizer doesn't have FDA approval. They didn't have FDA approval back in the summer, and that they could get approval this week. And if they do get approval, they can only come up with 6.4 million doses for 3.2 million people because you have to receive 2 doses. So not only do they not have approval, they can't even meet the numbers. The Trump administration officials passed when Pfizer offered in late summer, without approval, to sell the U.S. government additional doses of its COVID-19 vaccine. Now, Pfizer may not be able to provide more of its vaccine, blah, blah, blah. The administration scrambles to purchase more doses of the vaccine, even though apparently they have enough for 5 billion people. Let's just make sure we're reading that correctly. But in addition, right, the official said the U.S. has contracts with 5 other companies for a guarantee of 3 billion doses. So it's really, we don't even need Pfizer as it scrambles to purchase more doses. Plans on Tuesday to sign an executive order to ensure that the United States government prioritizes getting the vaccine to American citizens before sending it to other nations. Though it was not immediately clear what force the president's executive order would carry. That included whether it would expand the U.S. supply of doses beyond what is spelled out in existing federal contracts. The vaccine is being produced by Pfizer and its German partner, BioNTech, is a 2-dose treatment, etc., etc. Britain plans to blah, blah, blah. 2 days after, November 11th, 2 days after Pfizer announced early results. So on November 11th, we got some early results. The European Union jumped all over it. That's them. We have what, 65, I think it's either 55 or 65% of NYFD and New York firefighters saying they're going to wait a year. We have something like 35 or 40%. Let me stop doing that during the videos. Of a Gallup poll talking about Americans who are unwilling to take it within the first 6 months. So for you to not have completed results, to not have FDA approval, you expect Americans to want that? Of course not. But they're not going to describe in its entirety the scenario. They're going to cherry pick details that construct and manufacture a narrative that then, you know, it creates in your head the consent, the go-ahead to throw some more hate at the administration. Not that they haven't earned it in some way, shape, or form, but let's call a spade, right? For all of the things that can be pointed out that are clearly negative, right, and clearly detrimental that the administration has done, why make shit up? Why fabricate things? Point out the stuff that's real. It's fine. There's plenty. Asked if the Trump administration had missed a crucial chance over the summer to snap up more doses, a spokeswoman for DHHS said, "We are confident that we will have 100 million doses of Pfizer's vaccine as agreed in our contract, and beyond that, we have 5 other candidates." So they already have, right, and I keep forgetting to establish that. They already have a contract with Pfizer for 100 million at a certain point once they get FDA approval. What this is about is people wanting to attack any way they can the administration for something that honestly was a good decision. Like you're as a whole, America seems to be on the same page about not jumping on board taking vaccines right off the bat. So why would you be mad at an administration that didn't add vaccines that don't have approval to their roster of vaccinations? It's just. In a statement, Pfizer said that any additional doses are subject to separate and mutually acceptable agreement, blah, blah, blah. And that's the article. That's it. That's it. No context, no detail, nothing. Pathetic. On that note, Pfizer, Moderna, and let's see who else. Because like I said, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and Moderna are like the big three. I'm not sure who the other two are. But they've declined to attend the vaccine summit, which is, one has to ask themselves, like you would expect that sort of candidly childish behavior from the Trump administration, but from private pharmaceutical companies who are trying to make a buck. Like, dude, if you're trying to make a buck, you'd think that you'd want to participate in any powwow that they have, right? But that's fine. And then, of course, we have the $21 billion opioid settlement that came and went and nobody talks about, of which Pfizer's a part of, by the way. But let's switch gears here for a second. The monoliths, right? The mystery of the modern monolith. I wanted to talk about this for just a second because I was speaking with a friend on the Book of Faces. Hey, Brian. And we were just chatting briefly about what the monoliths and the zeitgeist, the hype around them is emblematic of, right? I pointed out it was similar to when Elon Musk, our days Howard Hughes, fucking Tony Stark mixed into one weird crazy baby, when he shot the damn Corvette with the spaceman into space. And it's like, it has no practical serves no practical purpose. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's more space trash, right? But it served to entice and ignite the imaginations of the world, really. It was able to, I think, set forward the notion that we are more than the considerable amount of misery that's generated on this planet. That we are capable of literally forging the strangest and most eccentric dreams into reality, that outside of the chaos and the lack of whimsical is the rest of existence. And it's all, I want to say a playground, because it kind of demeans the veritas, right? The gravity. But it's a canvas upon which we too not only are paints but painters, right? And I think it's really indicative of how desperately the human soul and the emotional spectrum, the wealth of wisdom and emotional complexity that the human species has, it's still there, and it is crying out more than ever to reach out of this macabre, right? More than ever. As soon as this shit cropped up, everyone ate it up. And it's like, I really didn't, for the most part, and it's like, I'm just one guy. But, and I was proliferating these articles and talking about it. I was just one guy. But as far as I can tell, there wasn't any sort of, there wasn't a lot of cynicism. There wasn't a lot of like debunking going on. People, like, and there wasn't necessarily an eagerness to fall in line with any sort of UFO concept. But there was an interest, like a genuine, almost childlike wonder. No one really, like... And here's the thing, is like, once we found out that people were placing them, you still didn't see anyone like belittling it or being disdainful about it because of what it elicited within our species. It's an amazing thing. But let's talk about it. Monoliths. Why are strange monuments appearing around the world? I will be the first to tell you, I wish it was ancient astronauts. I wish the motherfucking engineers were trying to send a message. No. But don't rule it out. Monoliths have popped up in surprising places. over the past few weeks, with the most recent appearing on a beach on the Isle of Wight. Several of these tall, shiny pillars have now been found at sites around the globe without warning or explanation since mid-November. The first was discovered in the U.S. when a helicopter crew flying over a remote part of a Utah desert counting sheep, literally, spotted a strange statue below. There's a joke somewhere about falling asleep, crashing. Anyway, this metal monolith was found on the 18th of November and disappeared just as mysteriously as it appeared on November 27th. This is that's not the Utah one. Around the same time as the Utah one vanished, a shiny metal monolith appeared on the other side of the globe in the Romanian hillside. The structure disappeared several days after it was spotted near the Petrodova Dacian Forest, cool name, a local archaeological landmark in the northern Nimt country. I hope I'm pronouncing this stuff right. Probably not. Shortly afterwards, a new monolith was spotted at the top of a mountain trail in Southern California before it also vanished. Then, over the first weekend in December, people stumbled across a tall, shiny monolith on a beach on the Isle of Wight. The pillar was spotted on Compton Beach, really? On the west side of the island, Compton Beach, west side. Although it has not been confirmed exactly who was responsible for the monoliths, an anonymous collective called the Most Famous Artists is taking credit for the Utah and California statues and is selling 3 replicas for 45 G's each. Wah, wah. And that's how you remove the magic. You monetize it. But not all of them, right? However, he could be whatever. However, when asked about the Isle of Wight structure, it said, the group, the monolith is out of my control at this point. Godspeed to all the aliens working hard around the globe to propagate the myth. Mars Attacks, one of my favorites. The structures have sparked comparisons with the movie 2001 Space Odyssey, where an alien monolith is a recurring symbol that appears to play a role in the development of human evolution. Brett Hutchings, a helicopter pilot who first spotted the Utah monolith, told local news stations, he thought the structures could be from a new wave artist or someone who is a fan of Kubrick. No one has claimed responsibility for the European ones, though. Speaking about the Romanian monolith, the Petra Nemt mayor Andrei Carabilia wrote on Facebook, "There is no reason to panic for those who think there's still life in the universe." Why would we panic? My guess is that some alien, cheeky, and terrible teenagers left home with their parents' UFO and started planting metal monoliths around the world. First in Utah, then at Petra Nemt. I'm honored that they chose their city. Fine, whatever. Get me upset. Speculation is a 5th mysterious monolith discovered. Okay. Speculation has also followed the disappearance of the U.S. and Romanian monoliths. A Colorado photographer told KSTU that he saw 4 men come to the remote. Right, we saw that. 2 extreme sports athletes have claimed they were part of a group that took down the hollow metal structure because they were worried about the damage. Right, they saw there was like an overhead picture and going as far back as one can. Don't mind the baby. You saw crisscrossings and like just a long train of cars just decimating the desert floor searching for this. So it's definitely understandable that they took it down for those reasons. It's unfortunate. You'd think they I don't know, go by camelback or horse or something, make it a real adventure. Officials said the visitors flattened plants with their cars and left behind human waste, poop. They were talking about poop. Meanwhile, authorities in the California city of Tascadero said its monolith has been torn down by a group of young men that traveled 5 hours in the middle of the night to remove it. We are upset that these young men felt the need to drive 5 hours to come into our community and vandalize the monolith. The monolith was something unique and fun in an otherwise stressful time. See? And I spoke too soon. But I'd like to point out still, though, and stand by my previous statement, the disdain is coming from select groups and select people. It seems for the most part that it is encapsulated the wonder of a species that is engulfed in nothing but like what seems like emotional and intellectual destitution. Emotional, intellectual, spiritual, and emotional destitution, followed by just like psychological mayhem, right? Just massive anxiety and craziness, deep despair, and just a void, right? An increasingly deepening void of discernment, like the ability to discern and to think through things. But before I go on a further tangent, it is both interesting and disappointing to see how people reacted to the monoliths. I didn't know about, obviously, Atascadero. You can see my reaction in real time, and that's upsetting. I do understand why the Utah guys did it. They actually have now this news. Shout out to that YouTube channel. They had a video on it, and one of the guys who was part of the 4-man crew talked about, the impact it had on the environment. That's great, but these guys in Atascadero, they just kind of attacked the monolith, and that's unfortunate. You can't. I mean, it's to be expected. Not everyone's going to like everything, obviously. But to feel that strongly about it, and mind you, in Atascadero, it's a city. It's not like it was in the middle of a desert. So for what reason they felt in the need to do that, who knows? But either way, we have this thing of manufactured narratives and a populace who has rendered itself inert in the ability to discern information accurately. And, as a caveat, even when we have something fanciful and whimsical, there are conflicting concepts and ideas about it. And it's like, good Lord. Good Lord, humanity. But on that note, please like and subscribe. And be well to each other, please. Always. And, take care.